a company will spend a lot of time, energy, resources developing something, and it could be groundbreaking and unique, but they may not have the infrastructure to actually bring it to market by themselves. So take a step back and go, where is the power dynamic in this relationship that's going to bring this successfully to market?
Welcome to Future Fuzz, the digital marketing podcast.
Welcome into Future Fuzz, the digital marketing podcast. I'm Vince Quinn, and today we're talking about ABM strategy for enterprise level accounts. And joining us for this conversation is John Rarrick. He is the head of global marketing at Movius. John, welcome to Future Fuzz.
Thanks so much, Vince. Great to be here.
Yeah, great to have somebody, a Philly area resident, by the way. So
that's right.
Off the bat, bonus points for you. Like 20 bonus points. I'm going to start assigning actual points now. 20 bonus points for you exactly. So there you go.
I was planning on getting a few Go Birds into the mix here. So,
what would this show be if we didn't talk about the Philadelphia Eagles? I don't know. Go Birds. So let's do this to start, John. Outside of praising local football teams, is give people a little bit of background of just what Movius is and what you provide.
Sure. Movius provides secure communications as a service, or SCAS, and it's really a category we created for the most part, Vince. What we do is we solve a critical gap that companies face with employee to customer communications over voice and messaging. So that's a long-winded way to say that we create secure communications the way people's customers want to communicate, not the way you try to force them to communicate. We do that, Vince, with a hero application we call Multiline by Movius. And what Multiline does is it allows the user to put a second dedicated business identity on any mobile device without the use of a SIM. So it's completely software and cloud-based, and the two do not interact. So you get this really distinct separation of work and personal, because, nobody wants to put another app on their phone, right? Especially one that might be watching things that other apps do. This creates a very distinct separation, and it allows businesses to stop buying tons of corporate cell phone devices and mobile devices and lets their people just communicate for business purposes on the phones they carry all day anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you want to make that as simple as possible. Just on a total personal level, like there was a point a couple years back, I had a group text with a bunch of friends of mine from college, and we would always just go back and forth. And for no reason that I can understand whatsoever, they switched to some other app, and I fell off the face of the earth. I was no longer in that group chat, because it's like, I don't want to download and have to check and receive notifications for this other thing when what we've got is good and this all works. Like you just want to, when the idea of just thinking about communication is exhausting, like what kind of drag is that causing down the line? I can't even imagine. It's got to be crazy.
Absolutely. And you think about, every generation has its own application that it likes to talk on, or multiple applications, right? So why wouldn't that carry over into their business purposes, right? So if you're a person who's used WhatsApp most of your life to communicate with friends and family, then natural progression would be for you to want to use WhatsApp for business purposes. However, if you're in a highly regulated industry, that was difficult or impossible to do. Multiline allows that to happen by integrating into those applications that you would otherwise normally want to use.
Yeah, and so for you to have this, product for Movius, you get to do this and communicate with telecommunications companies. I mean, so for people who aren't in that space and aren't deeply familiar with it, I mean, what is just the kind of, as a marketer, what is your marketplace?
Yeah, thanks. So, in Movius, we've got 1 foot in the software arena and 1 foot in the telco arena, because it's a unique product that pulls the two together. And what we do is we work with tier 1 mobile carriers all over the world. Here in the United States, it's T-Mobile. And in Europe, it's Vodafone. And in Canada, it's TELUS. We work with the best so we can provide the best possible service to our customers. But when you do that, the model is radically different from a direct sales approach. What we do is really harness the power of these gigantic B2B workforces that our carrier partners already have. So my job as a marketer is a little bit different. While we still do a lot of the heavy lifting from a lead generation standpoint, I spend a lot of my time in the sales enablement space for our partners, making sure they have the ammunition they need in order to be able to sell. and make sure that they're trained and motivated. And a lot of it's mind share, of course, because we're one of many, many partners that these very large carriers work with.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I'll have some questions for you in a couple of minutes about like a lot of what that process is like, because it's such a fascinating thing. But it's so cool what you get to do, because before that, obviously, you have to have the accounts. You have to have the relationship and the business with these companies and building that. I think and thinking about the modern landscape of this, right? Like ABM is such a popular thing for people to do. You hear it written about and talked about a lot. And I just think on a personal level, you're in such an enviable position because you get to run ABM strategies with enterprise level accounts. And like, what a cool place to be. It seems amazing.
Well, Vince, you're right there. But, one thing we have the luxury of is we have a solution that solves for very unique problems that highly regulated companies have. So the idea behind Multiline started from working with regulated industries like financial services, healthcare, education, and they need a way to communicate, but also be compliant in those communications. You can't just be, willy-nilly texting your clients in the financial space. It doesn't work that way. Things need to be captured in the cloud, and you need to have features like redaction and things like that. So where it's really given me the privilege is to interact with the top tier executive decision makers for some of these very large global banks, healthcare systems, education systems. So in a way, it's a benefit to us to only really have to influence maybe 6 people in a very large company of several 100,000 individuals.
Yeah, well, I mean, which again, amazing to be able to do this. So like when you're beginning the process of getting together for like this ABM approach to an account like that, like how do you even get started doing that?
Yeah, so a lot of it's research, Vince. We want to make sure that we're not trying to reach the wrong people, of course. And a lot of it is doing research in advance of making that first contact to get to really know the businesses that we're reaching out to, finding out what they're already struggling with, seeing if there's already been some potential violations in the space from a compliance standpoint, so that when we come to them, we can say, hey, let us show you how we can solve some of these issues you're having. Or better yet, let's solve them before they happen.
Yeah.
That's where I would prefer to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, from the standpoint of like, hey, that major lawsuit where your competitor was going through the ringer last year? Here's how you won't be them. I can imagine is a very appealing message.
Absolutely. And then you ask how we reach out. Well, like all enterprise marketing, ABM or otherwise, there's different tactics to reach that very select audience that wouldn't necessarily work for a mid-market or a small business type prospect. We're not going to bombard a C-level person with email. Those will never reach them. If they reach anyone, they'll reach an assistant that is likely going to hit, delete before it's even opened. So we need to go where they are. And that's often, face-to-face, finding where they're speaking, being in the same trade shows, the same symposiums, making sure we're around where they go. And, referrals are also huge in the ABM space as well. Hey, do we know anyone who knows these people that we desperately need to reach?
Yeah. Okay. And what's the value of a warm introduction, right? Like you can't match it. And I would figure for you guys to have this backlog too, it's one of those things where, because it is security, like you're in compliance. I mean, if that's not like a vital operational need, I don't know what is for companies like this. So that backing of, hey, we're working with these people and we've built all of these great things. Hey, do you know somebody over there to put in a good word? I mean, yeah, what a game changer, I'm sure.
That's right. And, like every industry, right? No matter, you pick any industry you've worked in the past, Vince, they're a small world. Telco is no different, certainly. But everyone I know, or most of the people I've even worked with, have worked at one or more of the 3 big carriers in the U.S. The same goes for our prospects in the banking space, in healthcare. Some of these industries, particularly when you get to a certain level, everybody kind of knows everyone. So if you can make your space, if you can kind of throw a flag down, people will find out about you soon enough.
Future Fuzz is sponsored by SalesSource, B2B pipeline management and sales growth for your business.
Yeah. And how beneficial is it to you to have that kind of experience and for people on your team to have that kind of experience, but they've been in these companies, done the work. Obviously you get all this corporate communication and you know what I mean? Like to be fully versed in that way when you're then sitting down for these really high leverage moments.
Wow, it's so important, Vince. I can tell you, even working with our tier one carrier partners, when we sit down to say do some sort of marketing campaign with them, I've done it from their side, having worked in the telco space for a good portion of my career. And I know what they want to hear. I typically know what they want to hear, what they don't want to hear. I know what they have time for, what they don't have time for. So I think it helps streamline immensely. But also, you think about it, anytime you can convey the fact that, hey, I know what you're going through, and I've got an idea based on some of my own experience. Let me share something with you. Man, if I heard that more often in my daily walk in life, it would make things a lot easier.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, okay, how about this? Because one of the things we've mentioned so far along the way is like the good practices, right? Like the things that you're doing, where you're doing all this research and understanding in and out what things are going on, sort of in the culture within that industry and things like that. What is something that, or is there anything that comes to mind that people tend to get wrong when it comes to this kind of relationship building and marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll reiterate something that I touched on just a little bit ago, which is understand what your partner is going through day to day, right? And be mindful of how much time you consume and come in with a plan. I like to make partnering with us very easy when it comes to our tier one carriers, particularly from a marketing standpoint. I'll come in with some ideas. I'll even come in with, if it's creative, I'll come in with the branding at 90% T-Mobile already from like a brand standard standpoint. And I'll say, hey, I think we've got all the materials we need. We've done the creative standpoint. Why don't you just take it and put your final stamp on it, kind of bring it to the 100%, run it by your legal team, make sure we hit all the T's and C's, and we're off to the races. I know when I was on the carrier side and say an OEM partner came with me with a co-marketing idea, the more work they did going into it, the more I was like, thank goodness. It's one less thing I have to do this week. And, listen, you do that over and over again, you become the partner people want to work with, and they're happy to pick up the phone and talk about ideas.
Yeah, and it really reinforces all the things you've been talking about so far, right? Like brand familiarity, true concern and understanding of what they're doing, the reliability, the ease of having the conversation. So yeah, I mean, it all tracks in that way. And I guess to almost take it back a step then, because obviously this is more of like that white label approach to all of this stuff. So like when you're going into that, then, I mean, different mode, right? Like you've already got the relationship. So at this point now, you tell me, like, how are you beginning this idea of doing white label campaigns in enterprise space?
Yeah, I can, I can tell you how not to do it. We'll start there. Because I see this happen a lot. A company will spend a lot of time, energy, resources developing something, and it could be groundbreaking and unique, but they may not have the infrastructure to actually bring it to market by themselves. So they'll find a partner to white label, but hubris gets in the way. And they're very reluctant to say, to take a step back and go, where is the power dynamic in this relationship that's going to bring this successfully to market? And in almost every case, that's the much larger entity that's got the bigger bullhorn,
yeah.
Right? It's got more people who can talk about your product, sell your product, understand it, a bigger sales pipeline, just a more robust funnel. When you can step back and get over the pride part of that and go, oh, you know what? Multiline by Movius, in this case, is going to become T-Mobile Multiline powered by Movius. And that's the model we use. The key is to make sure that you wrap enough of the product's imagery around that larger partner, but don't dilute it so much where you forget where it started. That's the powered by Movius piece.
Yeah.
And I'll fight for that one each and every time, because that's the thing that sets us apart from just any other solution that a carrier might provide. So to me, if you can find that happy balance, and it's not always the same with every partner, it's going to be a little bit different every time you work with somebody. But if you go into that knowing, hey, why would we do this? Well, we're doing it because it's the right move.
Yeah. I mean, and on the base level of why do you do any of these things and why do they work, you're solving a problem, right? It's like, hey, we're doing this to solve the problem. And so if it turns out that this bigger company with their resources and their market and their expertise, like they can help us solve that problem for other people, then yeah, like that makes sense. So
Exactly.
So with that, then, I mean, because obviously, like everything that you've talked about, you're going into this with a good mindset. You're a good partner. You're thoughtful, considerate. Like to have all of that is great. What are some of the kinds of roadblocks that you can get into when you're doing this then from the other side? Like, because obviously, if you're, hey, I'm going to be white labeled and I have this sense of pride, that's a roadblock. But are there other things that you might see from the other side that might make it more complicated with that partner?
From a marketing standpoint, it's mostly about making sure you've identified the right people to be able to influence them positively to make sure that you can work together in the right way. From a sales standpoint, I'll speak on the larger business standpoint. Typically, the larger the partner, the more, let's just call it paperwork, right? That will take, particularly when you're working in the enterprise space, where the sales cycles can be pretty long to begin with, even when things go very well, because there's integration and a lot of work on the back end to make a deal like that, from start to finish actually happen. Anytime you bring in a larger partner, you're typically dealing with multiple contracts. My recommendation for everybody working with no matter if you're a solutions provider in the telco space or any place in the enterprise sales space where you're working with a much larger partner, it could be automotive, it could be travel, tour and travel, it could be hospitality. Get to know your partner's systems and figure out a way to streamline them as best as possible and have them run in parallel as best as possible with your own systems to cut that sales cycle down. Because at the end of the day, that can make or break a business. So you've got to figure that one out.
Yeah. And so it's so interesting because we've covered a lot of ground in the sense of different industries, right? And having this expertise and understanding of all of them to be able to apply yourself properly to those things. But the other thing that we haven't really fully touched on is you are the head of global marketing. And so thinking about that global aspect that comes with this, I mean, are there changes? Like, first off, how wide of a net is that for you? How what kind of countries are you regularly doing business with and talking to?
Well, that's currently, we do business in every continent.
Yeah.
So we have customers all over the world, and we deal with a lot of global entities, large global enterprise entities that have business all over the world. What's interesting for us is compliance is not the same in every place because the regulators are not the same. So you've got to be very aware of what you're solving for in these particular markets. What we solve for, in a macro version, though, it's pretty consistent country to country. It's just a matter of fine tuning it. So it's not that daunting. You've got to take a step back and do some learning. We're also smart enough to know that we will bring, when we do our hiring, we'll hire in not only industry experts, but market experts, so that they come in with the knowledge that we otherwise would have to learn.
Yeah. So how about this, John? If people want to learn more about Movius and everything that you're doing there, what's the best way to follow up?
You can visit us anytime at movius.ai, and you can find me on LinkedIn. And if anyone has any questions or they want to follow up, please feel free to.
All right. Well, hey, John, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you letting me pick your brain a little bit. I've had all these questions and curiosity, so it's been a lot of fun and really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Vince.
Thanks for tuning in and making the choice to listen to this podcast. If you liked what you've heard today, please don't forget to subscribe.